Use the firewood for boiling water. So by going in and doing just that, we give them a chance, a real chance of having thriving children, of growing, of expanding their economy. They can start growing vegetables. The women aren't such drudges. They don't have to take half their day to collect water. The children, the girls can go to school instead of having to be with their mothers. So it's a big thing, water. But more than that, being a volunteer, giving and not asking for anything, oh, you get an awful lot back. You get more than, I've got more back from WaterCan 3 times I've gone to Africa. I have seen the suffering, I have seen the joy, I've seen the gratitude when we've cleaned up their water. So it's something that I'm and thank you for asking me about it, because I think it's probably the best part of my life. And now I love what I do as an advocate for mental health as well. But, yes, please.
That move you forward?
Love. I have a deep, deep belief in love. Thinking it really does conquer all. And I've learned, I'm not a Buddhist, I'm a Christian Anglican, but I believe my God is a very, very loving, forgiving God. He's not a cruel God. He doesn't make me feel guilty and fearful and ashamed. I think that by being a loving person, warm-hearted and compassionate, that's what the Dalai Lama says. I follow, as I said, I've learned about most religions around the world, and I know every religion fine, and all of them are fine. I think it's how they're interpreted sometimes and used for political reasons that they become divisive. But all religions believe in love and forgiveness and redemption, and I believe that's what holds me is my spirit, is my believing that by being warm-hearted and not judging others and trying to help people who are suffering, that then I will find happiness, and that's the truth. And when you get so sick that you can only think about yourself and that you can't find any love in you, that the light's gone, you don't have hope, you don't have faith, and that certainly has happened to me, that life I don't want anymore. I never want to be in that space where I don't have a loving heart, where I'm so self-involved and selfish and confused that I can't see that just by being every day a good person works. It works, and giving instead of taking. Thank you.
Way back there.
I have a question. This goes back to 1973, I believe. There was an exhibition of posters at the Art Gallery of Ontario, and you were one of the judges, amongst a number of judges, to decide which was going to be the winning poster.
Oh.
You might remember those days. Anyway, the question is, after, I must just, one more thing, that you were trailed by a bunch of bureaucrats, I think, who were quite close by, and the chairman of the committee announced to a room full of reporters, Mrs. Trudeau will not be taking any questions. And, of course, every reporter asked Mrs. Trudeau a question, which someone else answered. So I got up, told my cameraman to roll, and said, well, it's quite obvious that the people in charge here do not consider Mrs. Trudeau to be very bright or capable of answering any questions, so I'll address my question to the other members of the panel. Why did you select the winner? She was looking wooden and then suddenly looked straight into the camera and gave a beautiful 3-minute answer that really summed the whole thing up beautifully. And the person in charge immediately got up, very unhappy I might add, and said, "This meeting is over."
Oh dear. No, I wasn't allowed to talk. Nobody listened to me, and I did believe I had, by then, I had had a good education. I had studied hard. I knew I had a fine mind, and I wasn't heard. I was too young. I was a woman. I wasn't, but I also wasn't mature, and I didn't have enough evidence to back all my nonsense. But I think that is true for a lot of women, is that we are underestimated in our intelligence, and certainly the mentally ill. just because I have a mental illness does not mean I am not extremely intelligent. Don't think that anybody with a mental illness necessarily is slow, because quite the opposite is often true. We have too much on our mind, not enough, not that we don't have enough. No, my time hadn't come then. It just hadn't come yet. I was still unready. Yeah.
Can you comment a little on how you handled, or if you even communicated about your illness to your children and how old they were?
Well, we didn't. What I always felt was that a child's world is a child's world, and they don't need to be burdened, particularly when they're young children, by the adult world and the problems that we face. So we did protect our children. And I found that always my love of my children trumped my mental illness. My mental illness was a private thing that I fought with in my own mind, and I tried not to let it spill into the children. I maybe put on masks, which I now won't put on. I don't need to. I certainly will with the grandchildren, except I'm very balanced. But I think that as they got older and understanding more, it became a real conversation. And I think that I dedicated my book to and I called her my brave daughter, Alicia. Alicia was only 11 when she really lost her mother, when Michelle died. And she was just such a little girl, and she loved me so much. And to watch me, I remember she brought me tea on the floor after he died, because I couldn't get off the floor. If I sat on a chair, I'd just fall off, because I'd lose myself into my grief. And so I stayed on the floor. She'd make me tea, and we'd eat tea, drink tea lying on the floor. But more than that, she knew, she knew that something had happened, and she got herself informed, and she asked the questions, and I answered them. I didn't tell her more than she needed to know, but I told her, you know, Mummy's sick, and I'm in the hospital, and this is how I'm going to get better. Or, you know, my husband, who was my second husband, who was German, from a German family, couldn't handle weakness, couldn't handle mental illness. He just left. He just couldn't. He loved me when I was strong and happy and sexy and a good cook and great at doing all the things I did. But when I failed, I wasn't. He couldn't deal with it. He didn't have the resources to deal with it. So, so he didn't let the children ever come to the hospital to visit me, or he didn't want them around. Me too much when I was sick. But I fought for them, and they fought for me. And Allie patted me on the back with every little tiny baby step I took. And sometimes I would sort of look over at her and wonder which one of us was the mother and which one of us was the daughter, because she just was so caring and so sweet. And I remember in grade 11, and this is one of the stories in my book, she asked me to come to her school. She was doing a summative on mental illness, and would I be the guest speaker? I said, sure. So I went and I sat in the back while she did a wonderful job talking about mental illness, it not being a character flaw, and about the brain imbalance and the chemical, everything. She was very, very good. And I was sad, sort of, that she'd had to learn so much at such a young age, but I was proud of her. But then she said, and today we have a guest speaker. It's my mother, and she's been in a mental institution.